Ex-crook's religious conversion. Preacher wants to share his experiences, by Karen Fraser. Oldham Chronicle, January the 11th, 2001. It has all the ingredients of a Hollywood blockbuster movie: crime, violence, drugs and a stretching borstal. But the story of former crook turned preacher Dave Clark is all too real. Dave, 51, who grew up in Oldham, has released his autobiography, Converted on LSD Trip, which charts his life of violence and drug dealing and sudden conversion to Christianity. And it tells of his battle to save the soul of his older brother Michael, whose mother insisted his name be spelt this way, Micheal, instead of Michael. And is now currently serving a 16-year prison sentence in the Philippines. The pair were born in Oldham, where their aunt still lives, and they attended Clarksfield Infant School. They soon got into trouble and went off the rails when they moved down south. Their father had been in the army, and mother in the Royal Air Force. David said, "We lived in our grandfather's home at Fleet Street, Clarksfield. But my father couldn't get a job." This was soon after the war. "We moved down south because my father had relatives in Watford, but later moved to Wilston, a village near Aylesbury. The children used to take the mickey out of our accents because we were smaller and we had to do things differently to get back at them. They were jailed for malicious wounding and carrying a firearm without a licence after shooting a woman with an air pistol. But in 1970, the brothers' paths dramatically parted. David converted to Christianity after he called out to God for help, and Jesus spoke to him during a bad trip on LSD. He is now the father of 5 and involved in a Christian gospel church and teaches electronics at Fareham College near Portsmouth. Michael, who has a daughter, is now languishing in jail in the Philippines after he was arrested for arranging underage prostitutes for sex tourism. Michael has always denied the charge. Here's David in his earlier days, in his pop group, the Foul Mean. David banded together on the left with his former band, the Foul Mean. "My criminality started with thieving, and then my brother got into wounding and assaulting a police officer in Tring. I used to live off my brother's reputation and became bold knowing he was a villain. We didn't care what we did to people. We would pick up girls and not care. Both were notorious in Buckinghamshire, where they lived in the 60s, and their exploits involved everything from stealing cars, garage equipment and drug dealing." Dave admits people were sceptical of his conversion after, and when he confessed to the police to 24 crimes, for which he was not sentenced, he gave information leading to the recovery of over £1,000 worth of stolen property, including cars, garage equipment, and even a colour TV set stolen from an old people's home in Winslow. People thought I was pulling a prank to get off being sent to prison. They put it down to LSD, but I'm telling them Jesus did speak to me. Dave says, "I've gone off the rails since, but I've now got motivation for living. I'm certain had I not become a Christian, I would have been dead by now." Michael has also converted to Christianity and was baptised in an old oil drum in New Bilibid prison in the Philippines. David hopes his experience will help others, and he gives talks about his life. "I know lots of Christian parents whose children have gone into drugs. I know what they're going through and what drugs can do. I would advise the parents to get my book, to let them read it, and then contact me." Dave's aunt, who does not want to be named, was sent a copy of the book. The 81-year-old said, from her Oldham home, "I deliberately read it all and felt that it could be dangerous for himself and for his children. He has a son who is studying at Manchester University. If someone got hold of this book, it could be interpreted very differently for what he intended." She asked him to take out some names, which he did. She added, "It is also unfair to his brother, as David had not been whiter than white. He dabbled with drugs when he was young. I know his brother was upset about the book. David is still very unstable and tends to have ups and downs. The reality is, Dave says, is that even though his brother died of tuberculosis in New Bilibid prison, our vision of bringing help to other former criminals is yet to be realised. The story has now been written as a punk rock opera called Borstal Boy, and a special edition of the book called Borstal Boys for prison inmates has been published. The debut world premiere performance of this opera is to be performed in H&P Aylesbury Prison in the very near future.